everybody, and welcome to 310 to Left, brought to you by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling truck for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox. We are psyched that you are with us. I'm Alanna Rizzo, in for Tom Karen, who is probably just pretty mad about what's going on, so he just decided to take Friday off. I kid. I am happy to be joined by Rob Bradford. Of course, you see him on the Odyssey podcast. Baseball isn't boring. Just ask him. He will tell you. He is my co-host for the day. So Rob, let's get into it as we talk about this, Mr. Bradford. The obvious question, I guess, to you is, do the Sox have enough? Are they going to make the postseason? I can't even believe I'm asking you this question.
Yeah, well, good to be with you. Always great to see you. And Alana, I would say this is that TC, it's like you throw the cougar in the car, right? You have to lower the heart rate. This is basically lowering the heart rate for a lot of people this morning, the calm before the storm. And to answer your question, it's one of these things where we've had so many times this year where we've had moments like this. You're just thinking, how in the world are they going to win a game? How in the world are they going to score more than 2 or 3 runs? How in the world can you compete with these other rosters? And yet then the next breath, the next day, the next game, they score 15 runs. Now, I will say this might be a little bit different. This is rubber meets the road time. This is, as you know, things get a little bit tighter. This isn't just everything will figure itself out. You don't have the everything will figure itself out time anymore. No, you have to figure it out. And I think that this is the challenge, is that Alex Cora, he's been trying to put all the pieces in all the right places for the last couple of weeks, certainly since Roman Anthony. But now you're running out of time to find the right pieces in the right places. And so, to answer your question, yes, there is a chance, but this is a different dynamic, I think, that they have faced the entire year.
Rob, I don't want to feel like this team is hanging by a thread, but I feel like they're hanging by a thread. I mean, do they have enough control over their own path to secure a playoff spot? I mean, you can say, listen, just win out, right? That's all you can do. All you can worry about are your games ahead of you. But can they do it on their own, or do they need a lot of help?
Well, the problem is that, obviously they've shown to get you this record, you're a good team, but this version of this team, Alanna, isn't that team. It's just not. Without Roman Anthony, and maybe the biggest problem is that you don't have an alpha. Like, you don't have we've seen these other teams and the other teams that they're going up against right now, whether it's Cleveland or Seattle, they have guys who are basically saying, get on my back, let's go. Whether it's pitchers, whether it's hitters. And the Red Sox are still searching for the guy, and the guy that everybody wants to focus on, and rightfully so, is Alex Bregman. But the problem is that this is the worst that Alex Bregman has been in a long, long, long time. Certainly with the Boston Red Sox, if you look at his numbers since the beginning of the month, since the beginning of the month, I think his OPS is in the mid 400s. So that is the get on my back guy. That should be that guy. And I think Trevor Story's trying to be that guy. Jarren Duran's trying to be that guy. But without those guys, which they don't have right now, it's an uphill battle.
A lot of things started going south, Rob. You know this better than anybody, when Roman Anthony obviously went on to the IL with that oblique issue. But is it fair to have all of your playoff hopes and dreams and everything riding on a 21-year-old rookie? I mean, he cannot be expected to be the savior. Is he a key cog? Sure. But he can't be the reason that the Sox aren't going to the postseason just because he's not in the lineup right now.
No, you're right. And Alanna, I always say this, and this stemmed from Mookie Betts. You don't run isolations from outfielders. As great as Mookie is, right, has always been. Well, okay, he's great, but could the Dodgers win if Mookie went down? Yeah, you probably could. And other guys, you have other guys who are hurt. You look at the Dodgers run last year, whether it was Freddie Freeman hurt, whatever it is, it's a collective. It's more than just one guy. Now, how one guy impacts the dynamic of this team, yeah, there's no question about it. You don't have a built-in leadoff hitter. Yeah, without Abreu, which is another guy that we should talk about, which is a huge, huge miss for this team. If you don't have that, you don't have two lefty hitters. You're relying on Masa Yoshida. I don't know if you should rely on Masa Yoshida. So all these things, yeah, they pile up. But you should have a better collective to be able to carry the load. And it comes back to what I said, is that I remember after Roman's injury, Alex Bregman was saying how we just got to keep doing our thing. And I'll just respectfully disagree. No, you don't. You have to be better. You have to be the best version of yourself because you're taking out this other piece of it. And unfortunately for them, whether it's Bregman, whether it's Rafaela, whoever, they haven't been the best version of themselves, and they better find the best version of themselves for the next 9 games.
Rob, they're running out of time. It's September 19th. We know how the calendar is not in their favor right now. Let's assume, I'm going to be positive. Let's assume the Sox get in. Can they rely on their experience and talent to succeed on the road? Because that's probably what's going to happen, right? They're going to get in, obviously, as a wild card bid. They're not going to win the division. That's clear. But they're going to probably have to do it on the road. Can they do it?
Yeah. Once you get in the postseason, and we've seen teams, even last year, we've seen teams bob and weave their way through. And I'll say this, Alanna, Alex Cora this is one of the positives I think they have going for them in the sense of the 2 postseason experiences that we have. I thought that showed Alex Cora really thrives in the postseason. The 18 run, like he was on a heater like I've never seen a manager. and so I think that you can take the parts and put them in certain places. For instance, you don't necessarily need all these starters. You can take a starter and you can put them in the bullpen. That can solve some of your bullpen problems. If people forget, in 18, they were platooning all over the place. Third base, second base, catcher. And that was Alex Cora. Brock Holt had the first ever hit for the cycle for the first ever time in postseason. The next game, he's on the bench.
Amazing.
That is reading the room, and that's what he does well. So this is answering your question. Yeah, you get there, you can bob and weave your way through, but still, I mean, I think that you have to get somebody going where they say, for lack of a better term, get on my back guys. And once they get that guy, I think it frees up the other guys to feel a little bit better about themselves.
All right, so I ask you this, Rob, who's that guy then? Who's the one Red Sox player that's most likely to spark that like late push that they need and lead them into October?
Yeah, so the obvious answer is Bregman. But I got to imagine that he's banged up in some shape, form, or fashion because as good as he's been, as good a player as he is, you just don't have this sort of downturn. And I know that Alex Cora mentioned that he's swinging out pitches outside the zone, whatever. That's the obvious answer. You get him going, as we've seen before this year, everything sort of clicks. Everybody's freed up. Trevor Story is another guy. But I will say this, is that, you have Jarren Duran. Jarren Duran has proven to be that guy before. He hasn't proven to be that guy consistently enough this year, especially against lefties. And I'm going to give you another one. If you got to get Wilyer Abreu back, you got to get him back. We forget how there's been games this year where Wilyer Abreu, the one guy on this team who has over 20 home runs, who's hitting home runs, that's the one guy you say, all right, he's got some pop in the lineup, and he changes that dynamic. So I think he jumps to the top of the list. But listen, without a healthy calf, you can't play. And right now, we don't know if he has a healthy calf.
Yesterday, when I was watching the game, obviously it was an early game for the Red Sox. I made the mistake of texting your friend and mine, Jared Carabas, and all I said was WTH. And he goes, Brian Bayo needs to get the blank locked in, right? And he's always calm, cool, and collected, that Jared Carabas, always very level-headed when it comes to the Sox. But he said he has to get locked in. So I ask you this, Rob. Can the Red Sox starting staff, who has been very good for the most part in the second half of the season, but they need to regroup, can they regroup and deliver when it matters most?
Yeah, I honestly, that's not a huge concern for me. Like, they've taken a downturn the last 2 starts by Giolito and Bayo. Not great. Certainly not what we have come to expect from them. But as you said, I mean, I think when you get to the postseason, it's a different beast. It's a different animal. maybe all of a sudden it clicks. We've seen it click for guys before. All of a sudden the lights turn on and you get the postseason vibe, and boom. And by the way, it's so bizarre to me, Alanna, how we can look at Giolito and Bayo in these last 2 weeks, or any player, and we say, "Oh man, like these 2 weeks, it is what it is. They're not playing well, or they are playing well." Once you get into the postseason, you define yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You define your season. Like, it's bizarre to me. It's just a week. It's a 2 weeks, but it's the postseason. All eyes are on you, and you can make so much money if you're a free agent. You can make so much. You can get so much reputation if you're just a player who is trying to find their way. And I would not put it past either one of those guys to go on a heater, if they get the opportunity. But once again, basically their next starts are postseason starts.
Yeah, you got to get in first. If you do get in, Rob Bradford, are all bets off? I feel like the postseason, as you were just mentioning, it's a clean slate, right? It's like everyone hits the reset button. You've seen the teams, the Texas Rangers a couple of years ago, everything was on the road. 10, 12, and 14 San Francisco Giants. One of those years they had to do the entire thing. They won every single game on the road. Do the Sox, I know it sounds obvious, but do the Sox just need to get in?
Yeah, I think once you get in, it's like we've seen there's too many of examples of teams sneaking in and just going on heaters to ignore that possibility. Go back to Nathaniel Lowe was on the Texas Rangers a couple of years ago. Look at his last couple of weeks, Look at they win the World Series. Look at the team they play in the World Series, the Arizona Diamondbacks. They win 8 out of 10 before losing the last 3, but they sneaked in because they won 8 out of the 10. But they lost the last 3, and I'm sure that everybody there were like, "Oh, they snuck in, but they lost the last 3. They're not going to go anywhere." Next thing you know, they're in the World Series. Look at last year. Last year, the Minnesota Twins go 3-10. The Tigers go 10-3. It's everything. Once you get in, it's a whole different dynamic. It's everything, and also, like we've seen too many times with the division winners, they get the time off, and it's a sad trombone because they get the time off, and then they're bumped. I mean, the people in Milwaukee are probably biting through 5 layers of fingernails right now because as good a season as they have had, like what a terrible, terrible ending it would be if they get bumped in the first time they play in the postseason. So, yeah, I think that's the exciting part about it, honestly, is that there's been so many great stories over the last couple of years of examples of exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a fun time because anything can happen. I think the folks in Milwaukee are probably biting through 5 layers of cheese curds and brats, Rob Bradford. If the
delicious.
Red Sox do not get in, is this season a failure?
Yeah. I mean, I think it is. And because for a couple of different reasons. Number one, they clearly pushed their chips to the middle of the table when it came to investing in this team. And I know they set themselves up for the future and sustainability and all of that. That's fine. But the goal is to win. The goal is ultimately to get to the World Series. And they had put themselves in position to do that. So when you don't do that, when you do fall short in the position that you were in, I don't think like how you can look at it as a success in any stretch of the imagination. This isn't about building. Like, you're going to build, that's fine. But this is what I said the trade deadline, which is if you have the opportunity to be in position to win a World Series, let's not forget what the goal is. The goal is to win the World Series. So, I think that remains the goal, or at least get to the World Series. If you ask me that question and saying, what is a success or a failure if they get to the World Series? If they get to the World Series and they lose it, fine. Like, it's a success. Maybe even if they get to the championship series. But right now, they don't make the playoffs. I don't think you can say that.
Yeah, considering a couple of weeks ago, we thought it was a foregone conclusion. I mean, even a handful of days ago, I thought it was a foregone conclusion. And now every single game seems massive. All right, much more to come on 3:10 to left. We're going to be looking ahead to a big series with the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays would love nothing more than to be spoiler and keep the Sox out. We'll talk about that next on 3:10 to left, brought to you by your New England Ford dealers.
3:10 to left is presented by your New England Ford dealers who've been taking everyone out to the ball game at Fenway Park for decades. Catch Ford next time you're at Fenway, including in the Ford Clubhouse, a full-service bar perfect for bringing your lineup together and for recording our live edition of 3:10 to left. It's all brought to you by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox.
We welcome you back to 3:10 to left. Rob Bradford, Alanna Rizzo with you in for Tom Karen. And Rob, if we've learned anything over the course of this last series is you can't overlook anybody, right? The Athletics would like to say, hey, we're still here, even though we're mathematically eliminated. The Red Sox start a big series today with the Tampa Bay Rays. At this point, every game is a big one. How important is it for them to get that game one victory? Make a statement, rebound quickly in a key series.
I think it's huge because of exactly what we talked about before, which is you've had this team, we've seen this team where they've had these moments where you think they're not going to be able to dig out from the depths, right? And then all of a sudden they figure it out. This has been a figure it out team for the entire year. This is the ultimate test of figuring it out, though. Like you have to actually go into these last 9 games and start with game number 1 in Tampa. I had to catch myself in Tampa, not St. Petersburg, in Tampa, and really say, hey, everybody, we have figured it out. We are on our way. We have scored some runs. We got good pitching, all of it. Like it's all of it. And then you go to the other ones because what's around the corner, there might be optimism. There might be pieces to make this work. Peyton Tolley is a perfect example of this. Sunday's game, Sunday, it felt like Sunday. Thursday's game where he comes in, you're like, all right, that can work. That works. That plays. Guy coming in from the bullpen, striking out the side, throwing almost 100, all of it. But you have to, you don't have a lot of time to figure out exactly where that fits. And so their challenge is to see who they can rely on when it counts the most. And right now, it counts the most.
Yeah, and Garrett Crochet has been that guy, Rob, that they've been able to rely on over the course of this season, although he only can take the ball every 5th day. How does he continue that dominance and give them a strong start in this series?
Well, that's the thing, right? Now that should not be named, which is Garrett Crochet in what my previous statement, which is if you say, do they have to win this? Yeah, if you don't win this one, then whoo. Oh my goodness. Like then you're saying, hey, rookies or semi-rookies, Kyle Harrison, Conley Early, go get them. Save our season.
Good luck.
Yeah. I mean, it's like we like the story. Maybe they will. I don't know. Like maybe they will. But how many times, Alanna, have we said this about Crochet? This is what he's there for. This is what he's all about. This is why he's the ace. This is important of having a guy like this. And this is, once again, another example of this. And he's been that guy. He's been that dude so many times. But now, like, there just can't be a step back. It's sort of like I said it before, and I'll say it again. This is the postseason. This is it. Like, this is when it counts the most. It is what it is. And so this is where we have banked on Crochet all year long. And because if it doesn't work out, then once again, you're staring at 2 rookies in terms of, saving your season. I don't know if saving your season, but not far off.
Yeah, I mean, for all intents and purposes, Rob, this is the postseason because if you don't win this season series or this series this weekend, you're pretty much not getting into the playoffs. Drew Rasmussen on the hill for the Tampa Bay Rays. What types of challenges does he present for Boston's lineup? How do you think they should approach him? How do you get to him early?
Well, I think that, first of all, it's not necessarily Rasmussen. And by the way, this is the most obvious statement of all time. But the Rays aren't an easy out, man. Like the Rays, starting with this pitching with Rasmussen, with the guys like Papio and some of these other guys, it's they are always tough for no other reason they're pitching. And this is a perfect example of this. But I think ultimately you say, well, how do you get to them? Should you do? What is the approach? Well, number one, here's the approach. Do what you did the other day. You score 6 runs in the first. Yay. All right. Go get them. That works. That plays. But the problem is that, you have that moment of scoring 6 runs in the first, and then you didn't do much after. And you haven't, it's not a news flash that you haven't taken advantage of when you did get guys on. What's striking is just how little pop that they have. And it is what it is. You don't have home run hitters, but you got to find a little bit of pop, and especially with runners on base. They have almost next to no, I think in the last couple months, they've had 2 home runs with runners on base. It's kind of crazy. So that said, you need a little bit of pop. You need a little bit of punch. But what I'm going to say to answer your question isn't earth-shattering. It's just science. You get guys on, you have to drive them in. You have to take advantage of it. And they haven't been doing that lately.
So what you're saying is play some small ball. Play some, move a guy over 90 feet. If you're not a team that can bash, then you got to find ways to generate runs in other ways. Can they do that though? Are they capable of doing that, especially in a time frame where they're going to have to turn it on quickly, Rob? And I don't know that baseball is a sport where you can flip the switch.
No, see, I like that. Finally, right? It's true. It's true. It's like we expect. This is one thing that we should just get past. They aren't going to all of a sudden hit a bunch of home runs. And this is what I'm saying. It's not, that just isn't going to happen. They might hit a home run or two, and maybe they'll have a game where they hit 3 in one game. I don't know. But yeah, they have to play that way. And let's be perfectly honest, Alanna, that's an uncomfortable way to play. It just is. Mm-hmm. Especially when you have a lot of guys who aren't the best versions of themselves. So you're playing small ball with a lineup that isn't really having a whole lot of consistent hitters. That is the issue. But as we said, it is what it is with them. And one of the biggest things, one thing that they can do, and this goes back to when Cora pinch hit Sogard for Rafaela, put the ball in play, right? Put the ball in play. That's what you have to do in the postseason. That's what they weren't doing when they lost all those one-run games. If nothing else, do not seems so simple. Like they would say, "Oh yeah, Bradford, try to do it. Do not swing and miss, right? Do not swing and miss. That is step one. That is my plea to the Boston Red Sox. Do not swing and miss."
There you go. Do not strike out. Put the ball in play. Force the defense to make a play. That would be nice. How much do you put into the early season success that the Sox had against the Rays? Does that carry into this series, or are we just saying it doesn't make any difference because this series is a new series?
No, and the easy answer to that, or the easy example for that, is look at the Yankees. You know, that what you went into that last series against the Yankees, and you're like, oh, we own the Yankees, whatever, it was 7-1, whatever it was. Well, all of a sudden you don't. It just turns. Or the most recent example, the A's. Look at what you did to the A's in Sacramento. Like, it looks non-competitive. You're dominating them. And then they come in, and the last image we have of the A's is this young team that's playing awesome defense, has an offense twice as good as the Red Sox and all that. So, yeah, it turns in a hurry. Like, I think that the biggest thing is you look at how the Rays play, and you know that that's always going to be a tough thing. Like you said, the pitching, and you got a guy like Chandler Simpson who is a different version of himself. Like the Rays, I always thought that Kevin Cash was, this isn't like going on a ledge here, but Kevin Cash is one of the best managers in baseball. And a couple of weeks ago, they were in it. I mean, they were right there. They've taken a turn for the worse, but for what they have for that roster, I think that they've done a pretty good job for themselves. And once again, I mean, the quick answer is that it's just never, no matter if you've won 9 in a row against them or lost 9 in a row, it's just never an easy one against the Tampa Bay Rays.
How many games of this series do the Red Sox need to win to stabilize their wild card berth?
Ooh, hold on. I'm not good at math. Square root of pi. I'm trying to
X to the fourth power.
Yeah. This is not my strong suit. Every time anyone brings up magic numbers, I cringe. I change the subject in a hurry. Yeah. So
2 or 3?
let's
Do they have to sweep, or do they take 2 or 3?
No. They don't have to sweep. I mean, they still own the tiebreaker against Cleveland, right? So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. But they just have to play. I think that the biggest thing is that if you win 2 out of 3, then not only does that help you in the standings, but also like helps that you can win games, that you can beat a team. And the what's around the corner, Detroit isn't, that's for me, Detroit at the end of the year. Yeah, you might get to that point and you might have to win those games. I think you can beat Detroit. I look at it as you got to position yourself in a way heading into Toronto where not only have you won games, but you have figured out some things that we talked about, figured out how to play better baseball, how to actually be a threat. Because that Toronto team, to me, Alanna, is maybe the best team in the American League. And I know
Why do you say that? Because I don't know that I feel that there's any one team that separates themselves, but I really hope, Rob, that Toronto clinches the division by the time the Red Sox get to see them. But what do you like about this Toronto team? What makes them dangerous?
Yeah, so I'm anxious to hear you too, because you follow Toronto pretty intently. So I would say this. One of the things about Toronto is we talk about putting the ball in play. They do it better than any team in baseball. I believe they strike out fewer time in baseball. If not, they're right at the top of the list. That plays. They have the alphas that we're talking about, right? They have the stars who are performing like stars. They obviously have veteran pitchers, some of them who are really, really good, pitching very, very well. And a guy like Bieber who has come in and, as I thought, would be really part of the solution for that. You have a guy coming in Trey Savage, the rookie, who if you don't know his name, you should know his name, everybody, because this kid's stuff is off the charts. And he'll probably end up in the bullpen and be part of the solution there. They're a super talented team. I'll come back to it, though. Their approach and how difficult it is to beat them, because that they do put the ball in play so much, and they do have those bats, and they do have enough pitching. All of it. I know that I'm casting a wide net, but that's what they are. I mean, this isn't a fluke. They've reached this point. They haven't had many downturns, and because of it, they have this cushion in the standings.
Well, the reason that the net is so wide, Rob, is because I think, to your question and to your point, they're the most complete Toronto Blue Jays team I have seen in many years, because we knew that they could pitch, but now I finally feel that the offense is complementary to the pitching staff. And what's interesting about this Toronto team is if you look at the AL East in terms of run differential, Toronto is at plus 83, with obviously it's a positive run differential. But the Yankees slug, right? The Yankees have a run differential of plus 135, yet Toronto has a 3-game lead in the division, meaning to me that, yes, they can hit a little bit, but they do put the ball in play. They don't rely on the home run ball, and they can pitch. And I think that's dangerous, because in the postseason, just ask the Yankees from last year in Game 5 of the World Series, you have to be able to play fundamentally sound baseball. You have to be able to pitch, and you have to be able to defend. And I think that's what makes Toronto so dangerous this season, is that they seem like what I thought Detroit was all season long up until recently. I felt like Toronto is probably the most complete team, the most well-balanced team, if you will, in the American League. You always talk about mental toughness, and Alex Cora talks about it too. And you're talking about, grinding at bats and putting the ball in play and forcing the hand of the defense. Is this series a mental toughness series?
Yeah, well, I think the mental toughness aspect of it. And by the way, I get fired up you talking about the Blue Jays. You are so right about all of that, and the Blue Jays versus Yankees in that comparison. Because put it this way, before I get to the Rays or the Red Sox, I don't think anyone's going to come away from a Toronto Blue Jays series and say what Joe Kelly said about the Yankees, and then they've started playing Toronto Blue Jays baseball. like you said. And then they started playing Yankees baseball, which we know, like that's the problem with the Yankees, right?
Sloppy.
Defense, fundamentals, and relying on home runs. But so I'm with you with the Blue Jays is what I'm saying. And then so with the Red Sox, with the mental toughness, I think what it comes down to is that they can talk about what the dangerous thing is that they can talk about one game at a time. They can talk about we're not putting too much pressure on ourselves. We can talk about all of that. But there are some guys in there who have not experienced this. There are some guys in there who are going to put too much pressure on themselves. That's what it is. And that's where I come back to. Somebody's going to take that pressure off. Somebody, and I hate to keep bringing up Bregman, man, but like Bregman has to be better. He just has to be better. And if he's better, if Trevor Story's that guy that he has been, if Jarren Duran can start taking off a little bit, then that takes the pressure off the Rafaelas. That takes the pressure off these other guys. Because if you don't start taking pressure off them, then you start making mistakes. You start making base running mistakes. You start making mistakes in the field. You start getting thrown out at home maybe more than you would because you're trying to score extra runs. Like all of that. But it just comes back to actually feeling what you keep saying that you are doing. And I mean, that is just treating it like you did in the middle of July as a game, as part of a good team. Because right now, that's a hard thing to do when you're struggling and you're not scoring runs and you're looking at the scoreboard.
Yeah, this is not a just pass the baton team right now because everybody seems to be pressing. We don't have a big bopper in the lineup, if you will. All right, much more to come on 3:10 to left. We're going to talk about some positive things. Which are the Red Sox players with some Gold Glove opportunities? We roll on after this, brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to 3:10 to left. Rob Bradford, Alanna Rizzo in for Tom Karen. It's funny I say this because I think if Ceddanne Rafaela, Rob, played for the Cincinnati Reds or the Milwaukee Brewers, I could ask this question. But he plays for the Boston Red Sox. It's a big market national team. And he is one of the best elite center field defenders I've seen. Yet I don't think we're talking about him enough. Why isn't he getting the attention that I believe he deserves?
Well, I think that number one, unfortunately, sometimes defense is tied to offense, and maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's moving around a little bit like he had to. But I think that Alex, put it this way, Alanna, Alex Cora, every chance he gets, he's saying it. Like he's like best guy in the league. So I think that ultimately. Do you think he'll win? Do you think he'll win the Gold Glove? You know?
I do, just because there's 3 that will get it. So yeah, if there's 3 outfield spots, so I think they will give him one. I hope so. Okay. He certainly deserves it. It.
Yeah, I think the Gold Glove sometimes I hate. I mean, I don't hate. I strongly dislike. Hate's a strong word, right? So. But I strongly dislike because, you've seen this where sometimes guys who win the Gold Gloves are like, what? Like, what are you talking about? What? Juan Soto, Gold Glove? What?
Yeah, see that? But there are some guys that I'm like, what? Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's because of a name and it's because of their offense. You're right. It is tied to offense, even though it shouldn't be.
Yeah. And then sometimes once a guy wins it a couple times and then they might have a bad year, like, hey, you're going to win it again. That's called a Jeter. Derek Jeter keeps winning, right? It's like, what are you talking about? He won the Gold Glove. But that's the fortunate thing, I think, now is that we do have these defensive analytics, right or wrong, how much you want to lean on them on a day-to-day. But we can go back and look and say, hey, Derek Jeter won the Gold Glove. Wait a second. His defensive saves, like -2? Like, what's going on? At least we have that. But still, it's one of the most imperfect awards that we have. because we don't get a chance. We get a chance to see Rafaela with the eye test, but a lot of people who maybe aren't familiar, who are saying, oh, well, look at his offensive numbers, they aren't saying he's as good as he is, but he is as good as he is. So, I think that much like Abreu, I think he deserves it.
What makes you scratch your head more, Juan Soto getting a Gold Glove or Fernando Tatis Jr. getting a Gold Glove?
Oh, well, I have to go with Juan Soto.
Because neither one deserve it. Neither one deserve it.
No, but thank you though, because it does. I sometimes I say something and I'm like, am I right about that? I don't know. But now I feel better about saying how it's tied to offense.
Well, maybe we're both wrong.
No. I think no. Listen. Some things are science. Some things are math. Juan Soto and Fernando Tatis Jr. not deserving Gold Gloves. Both of those are science and math. It's just a fact that they should not have won the Gold Glove. And, and then you go to, I love Andrew Benintendi, right? Andrew Benintendi, like him personally, has had some good years and everything else. He won a Gold Glove, and then 2 years later, everyone's like, oh my goodness, he's terrible in the field. So it's very, very flawed. And I know that a lot of people, I think more so before we had this wave of analytics, it was more so, Alanna, and maybe you can back me up on this, but the guys who had won it for a long time, it was like they were grandfathered in. Once you win it for a few years, you got it.
I think there's a recency bias. I mean, there are some outliers to that. I do believe every time Nolan Arenado gets a Gold Glove or a Platinum Glove, it's because he deserves it. But there is some recency bias in terms of, it's almost like the Aaron Judge fatigue, or what's going to become the Shohei Ohtani fatigue with the MVP. Mm-hmm. It's like sometimes it just becomes a lazy situation where, they're really good. And until somebody else supersedes what they're doing, like I hope this year with Cal Raleigh, it's not going to happen. But I would like to see Cal Raleigh get the MVP over Aaron Judge. But that's another conversation.
You don't think he will? I think he's gonna.
The problem is Aaron Judge. Not the problem. That's not fair, because Aaron Judge is a hell of a player. But the issue is Aaron Judge is having an unbelievable year, but Raleigh is having a historically good year for a catcher of the like that we may never see ever again in terms of a catcher and a season and a switch hitter. And when you're surpassing names like Mickey Mantle as a switch hitter, Ken Griffey Jr. in terms of the statistics that he has as a catcher, that is ridiculous. But Aaron Judge is also having an unbelievably good year. But I think Aaron Judge's season can be repeated by Aaron Judge. I don't think there's anybody else that can repeat what Cal Raleigh is doing, even Cal Raleigh next year. And I think Cal means more to the Mariners and what they're doing than Aaron does to the Yankees, just because Aaron does it all the time. Cal Raleigh's season is unbelievable this year for him and for the position in which he plays.
So, you know how teams send out their packets sometimes to promote their guys? Mm-hmm. I implore the Seattle Mariners to take that clip of what you just said and send it to all the voters. Because, you are so right. Now, I haven't looked at the total WAR. This is a spoiler. I can talk about this because I don't have an MVP vote this year. But here's a spoiler alert. Most voters immediately go to WAR. They immediately go to WAR.
I think yesterday, I think Aaron Judge was 1.111 yesterday, I think.
Okay. So they immediately go to that. And I think that, so they do that. But what you have to do, if it's close at all, you have to do everything that you said that the voters should do, the people observing should do, which is look at the difficulty, the range of difficulty for Cal Raleigh, what he's doing. And by the way, what he's also doing is that he not only catches, but he's one of the elite framers in the league, which is being valued more as the be-all, end-all for pitching staffs and for teams now. So you have this guy who is the wear and tear of the catcher. You have this guy who is hitting from both sides of the plate. You have this guy who is being mentioned And as you said, these names that you just cited, Mickey Mantle and everybody else, they're having this historic season. And when it's a historic season, can we just say it's okay? We like you personally, Aaron Judge. We respect you.
I do.
You'll win your MVP another time, but this time, listen to Alanna.
I mean, I didn't mean WAR, obviously. I meant OPS, but his OPS is like 1,200 basically, or something like that. His WAR's at about 4.
Insane. It's great.
He's ridiculous. Like, he is such a good player, and I don't doubt his value to the team, but I think when you're talking most valuable player, what Cal Raleigh is doing is ridiculous, which leads me to the next question as we circle back here to the whole point of the show, which is the Boston Red Sox. Wilyer Abreu, Rob, is one of the most underrated defensive players, not to mention what the Sox are missing offensively in the lineup without him in there. I remember when he came off of the IL to begin with earlier this season, he immediately started to pay dividends offensively, but he was making some pretty incredible catches as well, robbing the other team of runs. We're missing him more than I'd like to admit. Is that fair?
Yes, and I'm taking like a deep breath because I'm about to like spout a bunch of Wilyer Abreu love, right? So I think that when you're talking, one of the things that jumps to mind is that we talk about guys, needing to say, get on my back, boys, I'm going to carry you. You know who have had probably more of those games than anybody this year? Wilyer Abreu. And I go back to the first series of the year in Texas where, like, that's exactly what he did. And that's what he has been. And you're right. Offensively, defensively, maybe we're missing the point when it comes to the Roman Anthony thing in a way that because of the Wilyer Abreu thing. And what I'm saying is that I think that Roman Anthony is a huge loss, no question about it. But you can make the argument that Wilyer Abreu is as close, if not just as much, as Roman Anthony because of what we just said. He's proven himself. He's proven himself defensively. The only difference I think is that he isn't the leadoff hitter. Like, they got to find a replacement at the top of the order for Roman Anthony against lefties and righties. But Wilyer Abreu, and this would be a huge thing, but oh boy, anytime you deal with a calf injury like that, a hamstring, anything like that, I hold my breath. I hold my breath that the guy is going to run down to first, and then because if it takes a turn for the worse now, that's it. So I hope that when he does come back, if he comes back this weekend or in Toronto, there's no turning back, because I think this absolutely is one of the biggest difference makers on this team right now.
But it's also the difference maybe of making the postseason and not. What if he doesn't come back and they don't make it? If he comes back, they make it, and then he blows out his calf again. Do you take that risk?
I think I'm not. Again, as bad as I am in math, I'm even worse in the medical field. So I cannot be a mathematician or a doctor. Although, honestly, covering JD Drew, I feel like I do know a lot more about human anatomy, all the injuries he would explain. It was like very fascinating to me. And that's a compliment to JD. But I will say this, is that I think that it's sort of like running a marathon. It's running a marathon where you're trying to lower your heart rate, you're trying to manage your pain, and then you get to mile 16 or mile 17, mile 18, mile 20, and you're like, listen, I'm not lowering the heart rate. It is what it is. I have this hamstring. I have this calf. It is what it is. I just got to power through. There's no turning back now. And I do think that they're sort of reached that level. And that's unfortunate, Alanna. It's unfortunate because I think in a perfect world, you look at Toronto with Bo Bichette, right? They're not saying, oh, we got to get Bo back right now for the stretch run. No, they're like,
they don't need him as much as they, because Toronto has more pieces. Toronto can withstand Bo being out a couple more weeks more than the Red Sox can stand Wilyer being out a couple more weeks.
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing to answer your question. That's the unfortunate thing because you don't have that luxury. This is not a luxury item. Wilyer Abreu is not a luxury item. So if you can get him back and you can keep that calf intact, then great. Get him back as soon as possible because you desperately need him.
Yeah, he's not a Louis Vuitton, Rob Bradford. He is a Samsonite. He is tough as hell, and we need him back. All right, coming up next on 310 to Left, a new segment, if you will. It's Socks and Shocks. Biggest surprise of the week, good or bad. We will be right back on 310 to Left, brought to you by your New England Ford dealers. Stay with us.
310 to Left is presented by your New England Ford dealers who've been taking everyone out to the ball game at Fenway Park for decades. Catch Ford next time you're at Fenway, including in the Ford Clubhouse, a full-service bar perfect for bringing your lineup together and for recording our live edition of 310 to Left. It's all brought to you by your New England Ford dealers and F-Series, America's best-selling trucks for 48 years and the official truck of the Boston Red Sox.
All right, we welcome you back to 310 to Left as we wrap up our show here momentarily. Rob Bradford, Alanna Rizzo with you. We appreciate you guys being a part of the show. Let's talk about the Sox and the Shocks, Rob. Let's go to the biggest surprise of the week, in your opinion, and how did it impact the Sox chances of getting into the postseason?
Well, I think the biggest surprise, can we do the big picture that you didn't win a series against the A's? I mean,
yeah, that's mine.
But,
honestly.
Well, yeah, and I think that, I keep mentioning Bregman here, but it is what it is. I'm really surprised that you aren't able to get more from Bregman. And you look at the numbers, especially at home. That's the striking thing to me. His numbers, when you have an OPS at home this month of just over 400, like that's not going to work. So that is, to me, undeniably the biggest surprise, because the other stuff that's been trending that way a little bit, but that's the biggest. And the other one, I'll give you another one. Trevor Story got thrown out stealing. Like, how can that not be a surprise, right?
Yeah, I mean, 31 on attempt, 32, right? Because wasn't he 31 of 31 before he got caught stealing? That's impressive.
Yeah, how dare he get thrown out? Like, it's like, things are going bad when Trevor Story get thrown out. So I just think that's the biggest. I would say those two things are the biggest surprises. But, I also want to be positive maybe a little bit. And I will say this, Peyton Tolley blowing almost just shy of 100 and striking out Nick Kurtz to strike out the side. As good as Peyton Tolley's been, that's next level, man. That is next level. And I did feel bad for him. 0.3 away from 100. He was so happy. He was like, they give out T-shirts for hitting 100. And he was like, give me my T-shirt. Let's go. And then StatCast with the sad trombone. Oh, sorry. It was 99.7. But he'll get his 100 soon enough.
Yeah, no T-shirt for you, Tolley. No T-shirt for you. And Nick Kurtz, Nick Kurtz, by the way, is probably going to be the Rookie of the Year in the American League. So that is no small feat to be able to strike out the side at 99.7. You said 99.7 or whatever the heck it was. No T-shirt for you. I think my biggest surprise, Rob, is that we're even having to talk about the fact that we don't know if the Sox are going to be in the postseason. That blows me away. Like, I cannot even imagine a scenario a week and a half ago of where we would have had this conversation. But I still have faith that they're going to make it and they're going to be just fine. Was there a loss that you remember kind of at top of mind that perhaps felt a little bit worse than it was, or kind of hurt more than it should have? And I don't know if it's, the series loss to the Athletics, a team that on paper you're supposed to beat, or was there something else that kind of sticks out for you?
From this past series or with the A's?
Yeah, this past week.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the two losses were really just bad games. Just bad baseball. It was, there was a lot of bad thing. And I think that's the thing that stands out. I don't mean to cop out and say, oh, these two losses, they're bad. Those are the ones that stand out. But I think that when you go in, I guess it would be the first game, and really you look at like the two games, the two losses, it's not only it was bad baseball, but it was also the evidence of how that could impact the crowd. The crowd wasn't good for those games either. But I'm not putting that on the crowd. I'm putting that they got to have stuff to cheer for. So Those are the two things that sort of jump out to me, that how it can go from this euphoria, pouring beer in your face and everything else, that sort of crowd, to, oh, well, you know what? We don't think they're going to come back. We're going to leave early.
Do you think at the All-Star break, and maybe that's not the right time frame, because going into the All-Star break, they had that unbelievable winning streak. But do you think maybe a week before the All-Star break or a week after the All-Star break, when they kind of limped out of the Midsummer Classic, do you think we would have been surprised that we were talking about the Sox going to the postseason at that time? This season in general has been weird. Yeah,
it has been. And I think it's one of these things where you go back to the year before, where you were 11 games over at the All-Star break, it would be the same thing. I think this year people were holding their breath a little bit more because of what happened the year before. But I think the answer was, once you got through August and you felt okay, that's when the biggest surprise. I think when September 1st, everything was going your way. September 2nd, Roman, I don't know if you know this, Roman Anthony got hurt and everything wasn't going your way.
I know. The good vibes died when Roman Anthony's oblique decided to take a nap. All right, Rob Bradford, we appreciate you. As always, you can check out Rob on Baseball Isn't Boring, his podcast. Of course, he's a contributor with us here on NESN, also on WEEI. We appreciate you guys very much. This is presented by your New England Ford dealers. We will see you next time. Go Sox. Hopefully we're talking about a lot more wins the next time we see you. Have a great day.